Hi, this is your coach JDP, and you are excellent. You are excellent is all about helping underestimated people from under-resourced zip codes find entry, acceptance, belonging, success, growth, and permanence in the career of their choosing. We uncover and demystify mentoring and coaching so that you can learn how to leverage those resources and identify the levers of success in your particular career, in the company that you're at, or the career of your choosing. Today, I'm honored and thrilled to have Renaldo DaSilva talking with us. Ronaldo is a serial entrepreneur and a dear friend of mine. So, Ronaldo, tell us about yourself.
John, thank you so much for having me. Honor and pleasure to be here. About myself, immigrant. I came here at the age of 4, grew up in East Orange in North New Jersey. Went to college out in Florida, a little bit out here in Jersey. Spent the bulk of my career working in corporate, and I've always had that entrepreneurial bug, man. I was able to build several companies over my life, and I'm at the point right now where my passion and my skill sets are intersecting.
Mm.
So I'm sharing a lot more, opening up a lot more in hopes of helping individuals like myself coming along similar journeys not fall into the cracks and make the same mistakes that I made.
You talked about entrepreneurship and how, and I know you as a serial entrepreneur, and you're serial in a lot of ways, but I know you to have that entrepreneur streak in you, and where does that come from?
Sure, John. That's a really good question. That entrepreneurial journey really it aligned just with my professional career. I started my career off out of school working for enterprise. Started there, got promoted really quickly. Moved on from there to my next. Moved back to New Jersey, and I started my first company actually after leaving enterprise. That first company was a blue collar business, which was a building maintenance and janitorial company focused a little bit more on the environmental side. And that came out of an experience that I had working with a nonprofit out in Oakland, California, doing a lot of environmental justice, social justice work. Then coming to the South Bronx, helping a nonprofit out there build out a for-profit arm to their business that did green roofing of all things. I knew nothing about it. Came in, learned the business, and helped them to build that out. And then I started my own thing after leaving Enterprise. And that company actually ran for about 18 years. That company was able to employ a lot of the friends of mine that I had that I grew up with that were having a hard time getting back into the workforce world because of different challenges that they had throughout the course of their lives. So that was my first real business that I built from an entrepreneurial standpoint. And we had clients all over Jersey, learned a whole lot in that process. And then went from there, got back into corporate, and that's when I got into tech for the first time. And that tech career really took off. Transitioned to working for some of the biggest tech companies in the world, from the ADPs to the Thomson Reuters, Salesforce, Microsoft, and the like, and learned a whole lot in that process. Held leadership roles, traveled the world, managed teams globally as well. And throughout that process, I picked up a lot and I learned a lot. And when I saw an opportunity, I in turn built a business around it. So I talked to you about the first company that I built, which I can get into a little bit more in detail. But the tech firm that I built was an opportunity. I saw that opportunity actually while out in Bangalore, India. I saw a gap in the Salesforce ecosystem. And when I got back here to the States, I ended up calling a gentleman that was a mentor and good friend. He was actually the person that led the division that I was at Salesforce. And he, in turn, really gave me that encouragement, like, hey, you're onto something. And that's kind of how the idea was birthed, building a business around a need. And what I did that was unique was I found that gap in the ecosystem, but I knew what I've always been passionate about, and that's creating job opportunities for people that are coming along the same path as myself, that may be non-traditional in the space. The tech space is devoid of diversity for the most part. and I wanted to create that opportunity. So I was able to mesh finding that gap with what I was actually passionate about, and that's how the company that I started. So I ran it for a couple of years, did really really well. We were doing one thing, and then ended up bringing in some partners. 2.5 years later, as we were trying to figure out how to scale it, because that was the thing. I was just kind of beating my head against the wall. I got to this point where we're doing well, but could not figure out how to scale it. So I brought in some partners, and we couldn't figure out how to scale it. And then we transitioned into doing some different things. And then once we did that, things really, really took off, and we were able to scale. And then eventually, we had a successful exit with that business. So to answer your question, the entrepreneurial thing really came from seeing a need and then kind of meshing that need with a passion. And I've done a number of things since then, which I can get into if you'd like, but where I continue to, again, mesh that need with my passion and where I am in my life.
Wow, that's really interesting because you said something really interesting. Son of immigrants, right? Came here when you were very young to the United States, and you. But we can talk about your educational career if you'd like. But at this stage of the game, let's just say that you had your educational experience. You
Mm-hmm.
learned a number of different things.
Mm-hmm.
You started an enterprise, then you went to the entrepreneur route. So
Mm-hmm.
really what's happening is you've had a really interesting non-linear career,
Mm-hmm.
which is fascinating. So tell us a little bit, and because this is really interesting to me, and I'm sure interesting to our viewers, right? You've had both. You are currently have started a new enterprise. Tell
Mm-hmm.
us about that.
Sure, absolutely, John. I appreciate you bringing that up. One of the things I want to touch on that your viewers, I don't want them to be discouraged and anchoring into thinking that you have to do things a certain way. Things do not have to follow a specific path in order for you to be successful. I think what's most important, and I actually shared this with a person that I mentored just yesterday, it's the drive, the individual, the drive, the passion. You find that thing that you're passionate about, that you're really into, and you put your energy behind that, and you will find your path. Surround yourself, seek counsel, surround yourself with smart people, people that have been there, done that, people that are wiser in different areas than yourself, and you will be successful. Where I am right now is I'm at the point in my life, in my career, where I feel that I've accomplished a few things, I've done a few things, and what's really important to me at this point is really opening up and just sharing the truth behind everything that's happened, everything that's got me to where I am in my life. I've made a zillion mistakes on a lot of different levels, John, and what people don't see are those mistakes at scale, right? What people see is the graceful swan. They see the big house, they see the business exit, they see the new company. What they don't see is all of the scars that you've accumulated over time getting to that point. And where I am in my life right now is really just trying to share a lot of those things, take off that mask, be that true authentic human, and share those experiences in hopes that it would help that next person coming along, whether or not they're looking to be an entrepreneur or not make those same mistakes in life. So where I am right now, I started speaking last year. I spoke at several schools, started sharing my story, and it was being well received. I started getting folks coming up to me, emailing me, calling me, reaching out, saying, "Hey, I can relate to this. I was in this position. Thank you so much for opening up about that, because people don't talk about that." One of those things is mental health component, John, that don't get talked about specifically in the entrepreneurial space, because it messes with your head. The failures, everybody's not built for that, and those are things that really don't get talked about enough. So those are things that I am at the point where I am now comfortable enough to open up about and share, in hopes that others that are going down similar paths don't feel alone. The So I started the speaking. That started taking off, and it's actually starting to grow a lot more legs right now. But taking that a little bit deeper, the goal behind the speaking was really to help that individual that's going through school, that's going through a similar circumstance, that entrepreneur, really understand that they're not alone. And I took that a little bit further and recently started Sankofa Legacy Partners. The goal behind Sankofa Legacy Partners is really to help that student twofold. There's value in it for the school, there's value in it for that human. I model it after my life. Again, I mentioned I came here when I was age 4. There was a lot that I experienced growing up in East Orange, North New Jersey, back in the early 80s, throughout my educational journey, professional journey, that really shaped who I am today. And I am now looking to create a business that actually helps individuals in those same circumstances. So we start with mentoring and coaching and providing guidance to families starting in the 4th grade all the way through their first career. And the reason that I was that deliberate is because I'm modeling it after my life. There were things that impacted me from that age all the way through my first career that I think is vitally important, because if it's not caught, if it's not addressed, if you don't get a handle on it, it can really throw you off course in life. I did not have to accomplish a lot of the things that I accomplished in life. The vast majority of people that have experienced what I experienced came from where I came from, did not check those boxes. They've fallen off and they've gone in different directions. And my goal is to really try to create and build a bridge for those folks to not fall off, if that makes sense. Why it's important for that high schooler, because there was a lot of things that happened throughout my high school career that I believe if things have happened a little bit differently, that my life would have ended up in a different path. I would have been a lot more prepared. So we're looking to really pour in and mentor young men and young women that are in high school today, again, trying to fill those gaps. Important for college. My college career was non-traditional as they come. Yes, I went to Embry-Riddle, but I also went to 2 community colleges, and there's reasons for that. And a lot has happened during that period of my life that I feel is really important to share, because as I've learned over time, my story is not unique. Getting into my first job, even second job, but that first job, understanding the importance of building your brand, understanding the importance of managing your emotions, understanding the importance of how to negotiate salary, how to prepare for that first promotion. All of those things are not things that were innately taught to individuals like myself at an early age. We didn't grow up seeing that model. And when you get into that situation, you don't know. And then you're just trial and error. That was the truth for me, and I know it's the truth for a lot of folks. So we're building this business intentionally to help to fill those gaps for those individuals throughout the course of their lives. It's going to impact them. It's going to impact their family. It's going to impact their community. It's going to impact the institutions that they're a part of. And then it's going to impact society as a whole. The school itself is going to get impact, because it's going to now help them to attract folks coming to the school, because that's a big factor for schools. It's now going to impact directly the retention of those students. You're now not going to have a lot of these students failing out, dropping out. They're going to now see someone that they can actually relate to, that's speaking to them, that's saying, hey, I was you. This is how I handle it. This is what I'm suggesting to you. These are the resources. And that's going to help with the retention of those students and see them through graduating successfully. And again, that's the last piece, the graduation rate. Those are all things that impact the bottom line of the school. So what we're looking to do is provide a program that is very holistic, human-centric, where we have the mental health component, we have the financial literacy component, and we also have this mentoring and coaching, which are 2 very distinct things all in one, to help that whole human be successful throughout the course of their career.
It's interesting that you have started Sankofa Partners, limited partners.
Yeah, it's Sankofa Legacy.
Legacy, sorry, legacy.
We're legacy building. So yeah, Sankofa Legacy Partners.
Legacy
Yeah,
Partners, right.
every word is intentional.
Oh, I'm sure, because you talked about the facade
Yeah,
that many entrepreneurs have, the success, right? But few talk about the realities of what it took to get there,
sure.
right? And what you were talking about is literally what URXcellent is all about, because the URX stands for unique, because we all have our unique journey.
Sure.
Resiliency, because you literally took one of my taglines. You got up, dusted yourself off,
Yeah.
and moved forward. And excellent, because as an entrepreneur, you bring your A game to everything that you do, and you bring excellence. And that's what and all of this and all of your journey, right? Again, you said you went to Embry-Riddle, and then
Yes.
you had another experience after that, and then your first job, your second job, your promotion,
Mhm.
all this good stuff. Did you have a mentor, access to a mentor, and what influence did that have on your career trajectory?
It's an awesome question, John. And the simple answer to that, consistently through that journey, again, that timeline that we're referencing between that age, that grade 4, all the way through
Mm-hmm.
career, the simple answer to that is no.
Mm,
They've been mentors that I picked up along the way, meaning more so in early career. There weren't any in college throughout that
mm,
journey. So there weren't any.
right.
That period of life was really, bro, go ahead and figure it out.
So it was
Trial
a
and
it
error.
was a mentoring and coaching desert, essentially.
It was
Mm,
through grade school, minus a little bit in high school because I was involved in Civil Air Patrol and I got really involved in that. But from a mentoring perspective, I really wouldn't say that there was that person. And then through college, there wasn't that person. Throughout the course of my professional career, as I started building the business, absolutely. Um, Will Anastas comes to mind. Michael Dennis comes to mind. There are several others, but those individuals, like really, they've got big jobs, big responsibilities, but they actually took time to really, hey, this is how you build a business. This is how you successfully do this, and that's when I think a lot more of the mentorship started to really happen in a very tangible way.
mhm.
But throughout that early career period, everything was like figure it out.
For underestimated people from under-resourced zip codes, having access to mentors, coaches on a daily basis, or even professional role models,
Yeah.
right, are kind of rare because we definitely don't have access to these people on a day-to-day basis, right? It's not like, oh yeah, my dad is executive at such and such XYZ
But
corporation,
just
or my mom is a professional. So
that's a great point, John. And I apologize for cutting you off, but
no, go ahead.
you're hitting a super important point that actually one of the young men that I mentor right now, we talked about the other day, and I shared with him. When my parents came here, 4 years old, they did whatever jobs that they can get to make it happen. Education was not the big thing where we came from. You grow up, you work in the family farm, you get a job, um, high school education. They did the absolute best they could with what they had. So they poured out their everything. And what they knew was to provide, to make sure there's food on the table, whether it's coming from public assistance or whatever means, that there's food on the table, that you have shelter over your head. Moved here when I was 4, one bedroom apartment, no electricity, no heat, I should say, from the oven. That's where we got our heat from when I first moved here. And but we had shelter, right? So they did everything that they could. This young man that I'm mentoring right now, same thing. Has got a mom that came here. The situation that they had, sisters that are doing all they can to work to provide to keep that food and shelter. Food and shelter. Got to provide food and shelter, and everything else will figure it out. So no, we didn't have that business mentor. Didn't have that person that built a company, that worked in corporate, that was a corporate executive. At least from the community that I came from, we didn't have that firsthand. So when you go out and you matriculate through that educational cycle, you go through that first job, you didn't really necessarily have someone you knew personally that can say, "Hey, this is how you do it." Trying to create that through what's being built right.
Interestingly enough, Sankofa Legacy Partners is all about providing this access to mentoring and coaching to underestimated people from under-resourced zip codes, right? Can
Sure.
you talk to me a little bit about how this experience prompted you to personally become a mentor? Because you kind of touched on your a current mentee that you have, whose experience mirrors yours in certain ways. But talk to me about Ronaldo, the mentor.
Yeah, Ronaldo the mentor has always been Ronaldo the mentor. I've always had individuals that, whether it's in business, whether it's just personal, that I've always tried to coach up and help. That's just innate. So that's just been throughout the course of my life. So the mentorship aspect was always there because looking to help and uplift is just innate, right? With the building maintenance and janitorial company, Building Green Solutions was the name of the company, and then Saving Joshua's Generation. Joshua's my oldest son. That was a nonprofit that I started. So Saving Joshua's Generation was mentoring. I never had that label on it, but we went in to Newark, New Jersey, East Orange, New Jersey, Essex County cities, and we actually got individuals from those communities and we exposed them to green jobs, and we took them all throughout the state. They got to experience things that are in their own backyards. Some of our kids from North didn't know that there's this massive recycling plant that creates these little pellets that create energy, and it's all through recycling. And that's in their backyard, and they didn't know that's a green job. Took them to all these, exposed them to these things. That's mentoring, right? Because you're now opening their eyes to things that they didn't know about. So that took place through Saving Joshua's Generation. Building Green Solutions, the same thing. We created opportunities through mentorship, through job creation for individuals that made mistakes in their lives, that may had some checks from a record perspective or whatever the case may be, and put them in a position where they're actually able to provide tangible, meaningful income for themselves and their families. So that was all mentoring, and that was all coaching throughout that entire period. And they saw in me and in my team individuals that came from where they came from, that we didn't make it. We weren't George and Wheezy at the time, but we did some things that they didn't do, and we were coming back to try to help and uplift. So that's in essence the coaching and mentoring there. So it's always been the case. So Sankofa is really what Sankofa is, what Purpose Unmasked, my speaking vehicle is. It's just a culmination of me getting to the point in my life because of experience that happened with the company that bought my company, for example. Some things that happened there, some other things that happened later in career that got me to the point where I said, you know what, I got to get this out. I got to be transparent. I got to take my mask off. I've got to be vulnerable now. I got to talk about the mental health challenges that I have. I got to talk about all of these things because it's important. It's important that these individuals that are coming up, trying to build businesses, that are matriculating through their educational journey, whatever the case may be, understand that they're not alone. So that's what Sankofa is. The mentoring thing has been forever. That ain't new. But putting it in this vehicle that is Sankofa, that is new, and that I can't do that alone. I've got a team of amazing people that are part of yours truly, that are part of the team helping to figure it out. Because again, I don't know it all, and never will ever claim to know it all. But we've got a lot of surrogates around that are supporting, that want to see this thing be successful. And it's the representation matters aspect of it that's really, really key here also. It's those individuals being able to see someone that looks like them, someone that have come through similar circumstances, that parents back in the day did get on that grocery line with the welfare book with all the colorful pictures and had to peel out those coupons, that could only go in the grocery store and get the total cereal. I love the yellow box over the blue box, and have that welfare cheese that came from where they came from, that understood what they're experiencing, and talk to them firsthand and help them through that journey. So they're now able to see, okay, they went through what I went through, and they were able to check these boxes. Oh, where you flew first class to Asia, and you did all these things coming from the same place, really? So now I see it as being possible. So that's what Sankofa is. Sankofa is just taking off that mask, bro, and just being straight up about your experience and doing it from a representation matters standpoint.
Fascinating and so true, because you, in certain aspects, speak my truth. Because I have had, and you and I have talked about this, very similar experience to yourself, right? I've been on that. My mom has been on that journey to
Mm-hmm.
provide,
Mm-hmm.
and now here I am, later in the house, in the suburbs, and the this and the that,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
never forgetting my origin story and
Mm-hmm.
what struggles I had coming up to get to this point. But I want to change gears here for a second.
Sure.
When underestimated people from under-resourced zip codes enter corporate spaces, they're
Mm-hmm.
entering environments that are first and foremost foreign, and typically they'll enter that environment having had some, if not collegiate experience, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Going from a system that is program rich to now corporate environment that wasn't necessarily designed with them in mind.
Mm-hmm.
There are a number of things that come up for these individuals. And first and foremost, in my coaching and my mentoring, and I literally have coached hundreds, and imposter syndrome is a theme. How would you say, or how would you advise someone, a Sankofa client, walking into these corporate spaces about managing the narrative that's happening up here?
The first thing that comes to mind and where I'd like to start with answering that question is saying you belong.
Mhm.
You belong. You have as much right to that seat as anybody that's at that table. That was not my truth. I never knew what imposter syndrome was, although I felt it throughout the course of my career. It's a buzzword. Some people hate it, some people love it. Um, some people see it as a crutch, some people don't. I was sitting, it was actually at, I don't even want to call out the company name, but I was working in big tech. We were preparing for one of my client had a very big presentation. It was actually to Getty Images and in Seattle, and sitting around a table in Nike actually, and we're sitting around a table and prepping for that meeting. And there was a young man on the team. There were only two people of color around the table. One of which was a brilliant and is a brilliant, brilliant young man. Didn't realize how young he was at the time, but he was actually looking up to me during those days, which I never realized. Watching how I moved and the like, and he noticed me sitting back and not really expressing my opinion in some circumstances in which I should. And he came to me a little bit later and he said, "You got to speak up, bro. You got the best ideas at the table. I know what you can do. I see what you can do." And he is the one that coached me up to let me know that my voice is relevant at the table because I was just so accustomed to sitting back. I got into, and this happened in college when I went onto the campus. I grew up in East Orange in Newark, went to high school in Newark. And when I went to college, went onto the campus was less than 1%, less than 1% black and just minority in general. And I felt extremely uncomfortable stepping onto the campus. I felt out of place. I felt like I didn't belong. And I remember distinctly telling my parents that I want to go home. I want to go back. I don't feel comfortable there at all. And it wasn't until I met someone else that looked like me and realized there's an HBCU down the street, which I didn't know. I only applied to one college just because I had one interest in flying planes and didn't know the whole nuances of that whole process. That's another conversation. But going back to your point about imposter syndrome, I've always, since then and throughout, felt like I didn't belong and felt that unease and that uncomfortableness. I had to learn how to build conversations with individuals that on surface level you felt like you didn't have anything in common with. Like, what are you going to talk about? What are you going to talk about? What do you have in common, right? I had to learn that skill, and I had to peel back layers and know that, you know, everybody has a family. Everybody wants to provide for their family. And that used to be the go-to. That used to be the go-to to build a conversation. So I had to learn that whole skill to kind of start integrating into, and I've always felt that uneasiness until later in my career, until honestly when I built the company and sold it, that I feel that I can actually start to step out into my own because I don't have anything else to prove to anybody really. I haven't done it all, but I believe that in doing some of the things that I've done here later in my career, I've checked all those boxes. I've done all those things that folks are aspiring to do. not with a cockiness, but it's from a standpoint of I don't have anything to prove to you. If you don't want to interact, if you don't feel as though I'm belong, I'll go build my own table, and that's what I did in the form of the business. I built my own table, I built my own seat, I built my own building, and I sat at that seat, and I was able to learn with the help of many others how to execute. So the imposter syndrome thing, for me at least, is real. And what I want to share with your viewers is that you have to go into all of these situations knowing that you belong. Your voice is necessary, your perspective is necessary. And don't ever feel like that's not the case, because if you don't, you're only handicapping yourself, and it's going to cause years and years of discomfort and a whole lot of other things, and stunt your growth in your career.
So how does this tie? Because again, when we talk about imposter syndrome, it's real
Sure.
for a number of different reasons and for a number of different people. But
Mhm.
now let's imagine that, oh, not imagine, because you've been in this situation, your first experience in that C-suite conversation where you have that seat at the table, you have that belonging. And you kind of touched on worthiness, right? You belong at this table. Nobody, there's a saying from a former company that we were both at, nobody belongs here more than you. How would you advise a person who's going into that corporate C-suite meeting to quell the voices that are going on in their head in terms of worthiness, the worthiness to even be in that room? Because this is something that some of my clients have actually struggled with.
So that's a great question, and I appreciate you asking it, John. One of the things that I would recommend is always go in prepared. Know
Mm.
your craft, right? This way, no one can question your abilities. No one can question your aptitude. Know your craft. Go in prepared. Do the homework and go in with the confidence. And again, this goes back to what I stated just now, in knowing that you belong there, knowing that you add value. And I think the more that you prepare and you know your craft, and again, these are all shortfalls from myself, the things that I just didn't know, that I failed at. Go in and be prepared. I've been in situations where I wasn't prepared, or prepared as much as I should have been, not realizing how prepared I should have been. So go into these situations, know your craft, be prepared, and just understand and know that you belong there. That's the biggest thing, John. It's all mental. There's really no silver bullet to this thing. You just have to tell yourself, and you just have to know for yourself, John, that you belong in that situation. And what's helpful for that individual is actually having seen someone or spoke to someone that has been there, done that, and then that now gives them a sense of connecting the fact that they, in their situation, can be comfortable in that situation and be successful in that situation. So that mentoring is important to help to prepare, seek counsel, seek out a mentor. Some people don't know to do that, but just go in prepared and go in knowing that you belong at that table.
We talked about the values that our parents have: hard work, provide,
Yeah,
survive.
yeah,
And hopefully, in providing the basics, will allow that next generation to succeed, whatever success means for them, and more than that, thrive. The values that are imprinted upon us drive the decisions that we make. How important would you say are the individual to know their values?
it's crucial. It's crucial, and it's vital that these individuals, that your viewers, that folks that were that are watching this podcast know their values. It's important. You have to carry that throughout. And again, those are areas that I fell short throughout the course of my journey. In not going into every situation, not being anchored into that, because it's so easy to lose focus and not think about that, not carry that with you when you're caught up in whatever the other nuances are, whether it's, how do I look to this person, or do I really know what I'm talking about? It's easy to not be anchored into your values, and knowing the reason why you're doing what you're doing, understanding what you believe in, what you're willing to compromise and what you're not willing to compromise. You have to take that with you in every single situation. And if you don't, John, that just, it adds to the space that will ultimately be, not necessarily demise is such a dark word, but it will aid to you going off track, if that makes sense. Not carrying that with you at all times.
Yeah, so the values is basically that provides that foundation, that footing for us to know ourselves better, and in turn be able to make what we like to call the right decisions.
But see, the tough part there, John, is, and you touched on the key word that you just mentioned, words you just mentioned, is know yourself. That's not an easy thing. To know yourself, that's a whole process in and of itself. I am just starting to learn myself, and that's not wholeheartedly knowing myself. So it takes time and it's different for each person. But if you understand and know what you should always understand and know, it, that it's important to know yourself and start on that journey. The earlier you start on that journey, the better it is for you, because it's important. Because as soon as you get to that point, you understand your values better, you understand your principles better, and then you're able to anchor in on that throughout the course of your career. And again, all areas that I had gaps throughout my life, just being focused on different things that are not as important, thinking that they're a priority thing, getting caught in that rat race and that hamster wheel, focusing on things that are not important, focusing on who you should network with, who you should know, this, that, and the other, when it's internal first, and that's not always the place that we start, at least for everybody.
It's interesting that you point out that we can go off in a bunch of different directions at the same time, right? They call that the hamster wheel, right? And just kind of turn, but doing a lot, but getting nowhere. And this leads us to my next question: is how important then, given that scenario, is goal setting?
Extremely important. That's where the patience, that's where the discipline comes in. That's where a lot of people fail. And again, that goes back to the modeling, that goes back to what you're taught, what you see, and what success is to you, or just through the lens that you have based on your experience. Sitting down and taking the time to write out your goals, to understand what it is that you're looking to accomplish, and then actually sitting down and putting a plan in place to execute on all of those. One of the things I started doing just recently is looking at my life, my family, as I look at business. Because the business stuff, again, I don't have it all figured out, but there's a few things that I know. There's a lot of parallels. You'll sit down and you'll map out your year. You'll do the quarterly business reviews, and the like, right? But what clicked for me not too long ago is that applying that to your life. What are your goals for the year? Like, really, do you do quarterly check-ins? Do you do monthly check-ins? Been in sales leadership pretty much my entire career in one aspect or not or another, and that's just something that we do from the very beginning. But you don't necessarily look at your life the same way. I was at an event not too long ago, and a gentleman that I was sitting at the table with said that he has a board of directors for his life in business. And I mentioned it earlier in the segment that I was one of the smartest things that I did for my business was seek counsel and put together an advisory board for the business. I have 3 for the new business. Do we ever look at our life that way? What's the advisory board for your life? Who's your doctor? Who's your lawyer?
They
Who's your
call that
accountant?
a personal advisory board. And
But you
and
see
what
the
you
parallels.
and what you're saying is that it's fine. We can have self-reliance, but if you want to go forward, you can go forward alone. But if you want to go the distance, you need a team.
Absolutely.
So one of the lessons that I think that we learn, especially from my experience, right, and the previous generation, is it was self-reliance. Pull yourself up from the bootstraps, put your head down, get the work done, and
Mhm.
success will follow. But in the 21st century, that's not necessarily the case, and it never was actually the case. to begin with, because we need, as you touched on it earlier, our network. We need our mentors. We need our coaches. We need the Sankofas of the world
Mhm.
to kind of provide that guidance. That not I don't want to say guidance, but provide that perspective
Mhm.
that we don't otherwise wouldn't necessarily be able to tap into.
Mhm.
So goal setting is, as you said, is very important. And you touched on a quarterly business review, right? A personal quarterly business review. And you said that's
Mhm.
part of the sales process, but you applied that to your own life.
Mhm.
Talk to me about that. That's fascinating because you're the second
Yeah.
person to bring that up in these interviews.
Yeah, I never really again looked at the parallels between business and life and how you run your life, how you manage your family and the like. And there are things that you want to accomplish, getting the deck redone or painted, right? Taking the vacation. With me, I started cycling recently. You know, I'm not good at it, but I started getting out there, started setting goals for myself in regards to how many events I want to attend or participate in, and in order to do that, what do I have to do to train and prepare for it, and then breaking those down in bite-sized chunks, and then just having those touch points where you kind of assess where you are in relations to where you're looking to be, and you just course correct and you adjust. You may change the goal, you may add some aspects to it, subtract, but you just find that touch point where you can course correct and make whatever adjusted measures that need to be made. That's just something I started implementing, and it's been working out really well. And again, a lot of these things, the earlier you start, the better you are.
Ronaldo, quick question. How you feeling?
Feeling really good, John. Feeling really, really good, man. Feeling that I am again getting a lot closer to that point where skill set intersects with purpose. So it's a good feeling.
Ronaldo, we here at URXcellent are all about getting to know our mentors. And in doing so, we uncovered that we need to apply a questionnaire to each one of our mentors to really get to know the person.
Sure.
So, Ronaldo, are you ready to take the You Are Excellent questionnaire?
Do I have to answer that question? I might not have a choice, so let's do it.
Sounds like a yes to me. Okay. So, Ronaldo, here is the You Are Excellent Get to Know a Mentor questionnaire.
Heart is racing. So let's do it.
First question. Favorite sport?
Favorite sport. Favorite sport. If I was to give you a favorite sport, I would probably say football from the standpoint of actually being a fan and watching. Doing is a different thing.
All
Cycling is starting to kind of get to that point.
right, you got to give me one.
Football.
Football. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Next question. Cats or dogs? And I
Uh,
should add to this reptiles.
so depending on what phase of my life you're asking me this question, right now it's dogs. I got
Dog.
a pretty big one at the house right now.
I've seen that dog. That's a big dog. It's a mastiff?
Yeah, South African Mastiff, a
Wow.
Boerboel.
Okay, next question. Mountains or beach or ocean?
Wow, that's a tough one. So I live in the mountains, but I enjoy just relaxing at a beach. I would have to say mountains because mountains come along with lakes, and I would prefer a lake over a beach.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Okay, next question. And this has caused some confusion and concern and controversy with
Mhm.
previous guests. So we'll see
So
how
we'll
it
skip
goes.
it for me. Define artist, because art
Artist
is
could
a
be paint,
broad term.
medium could be paint, could be musical artist, could be
Uh,
sculpture, could be written word, could be film, regardless of medium.
favorite artist. Wow. Huh.
Oh, I think you're the first person to get stumped.
Yeah, yeah, that's a tough one, John, because again, music is one, and then poetry is another.
Mhm.
Those are two areas that I go to just find peace and relaxation. I'll just take the easy button and go music. And what I play in my office all day, every day is Kenny G.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Smooth Kenny
I,
G. All
I
right.
go there to just clear my mind and relax, and
All right.
you'll
Get the
find that
Delta
I'm
waves going.
yeah, that's the one everything's about me in my office. So yeah.
All right, Ronaldo, final question. Favorite food or cuisine?
You are tough, my friend. Favorite food or cuisine? So I'm from the Caribbean. So I love my spicy food. I love my oxtail. I love my curry. I love Indian. I love Asian food. Love spices. I don't have a favorite food. I just love flavor. I love flavorful, spicy,
Flavorful and spicy. Okay,
flavorful and
we can go with
spicy.
that.
Yeah.
Ronaldo, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today and providing your insights and really helping us understand you and your new company mission, Sankofa Legacy Partners. But before we go, I would like to know whether you have any parting words for my audience.
Thank you so much again, John, for having me. Parting words, John, would I want to anchor in "You belong." Statement that I made earlier. You belong. What you're going through or facing is not unique. There are a lot of other people going through and facing it, and so don't ever feel lonely or never feel isolated. Because again, this is just anchoring back into my personal journey, John. I think that the more that we talk about how we're feeling, what we're going through, and just being open and honest about that, I think the quicker we'll get to a place of healing, a place of strength, a place of stability in our lives, no matter what we're doing, whether it's life, whether it's your academic journey, whether it's building a business. Statement that I made earlier, you belong. What you're going through or facing is not unique. There are a lot of other people going through and facing it. Um, and so don't ever feel lonely or never feel isolated. Because again, this is just anchoring back into my personal journey, John. I think that the more that we talk about how we're feeling, what we're going through, and just being open and honest about that, I think the quicker we'll get to a place of healing, a place of strength, a place of stability in our lives, no matter what we're doing, whether it's life, whether it's your academic journey, whether it's building a business, just being comfortable enough in being that true, authentic self, stepping out as your true, authentic self. The sooner you can get to that point, the happier I believe you'll be.
Ronaldo, thank you for so much for that. And thank you for being here and for the wonderful conversation. We really appreciate you. And me personally, you are an amazing person and friend. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, John, and wish you all the best, my friend.
Guys, this is your coach JDP, and you are excellent. We've been talking with Renaldo DaSilva, CEO of Sankofa Legacy Partners. I'll have Ronaldo's social information and website and all that goodness in the description below. If you found this information helpful, please like and subscribe. This is your coach JDP, and you are excellent. We'll see you next time.